that 2-3 year period of those events had come in such quick succession that it kind of just completely destroyed my life and just destroyed everything: family, home, work, everything.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Words of Rizdom podcast. Today I'm joined by the man behind the camera, normally, behind the scenes, the one who gets all these podcasts out to you, gets all the different clips out to you, the man, the myth, the legend, Josh.
What's good, man? It's good to be here. It's good.
It's good to have you, man. It feels strange.
I know, bro.
The funny thing is you're going to edit it.
I know. I have all the power.
That's it.
I feel a little bit offended. We've got to episode 30 and I've not been on yet.
Well, I did try. I tried to get you on sooner. But no, it's an absolute pleasure to have you, brother, honestly. And, this is one of those episodes, if not maybe one of the first, is the first in a way, because Thomas has been on before. And though he doesn't trade, he has learned to trade.
Yeah.
You know? So you're our first guest who hasn't decided to learn to trade. You kind of get to observe what we've done. But you're successful in your own right, in your own industry.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure we've got loads to talk about. And to begin with, what we always like to do is just start with a bit of background about yourself.
My name's Josh Thornalley. I'm a full-time director and filmmaker. Born and bred in Nottingham. And I have a number of businesses in the filmmaking and content industry. The first one is a production company. We started that last year called Blood Brother Media. That's gone pretty well. Another one is Film Space. I launched that. I started the company 2 years ago. We actually only launched this year. And that is hopefully going to be one of the largest filmmaking communities in Europe. So we've got 2,000 members in that already. So that's going really well. And then at the end of the year, we're going to have a studio as well, like this one. So
much bigger than this.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, when you do things, you don't do them in small measures, from what I can tell.
No, I think I've always taken things full on, really. Absolutely. And I've always been someone that's taken life by the reins, I guess. Yeah, definitely. Especially the last few years. I think the production company is the main focus at the minute. And then obviously the Film Space is an asset company on the side. It's an e-commerce store. We sell assets to filmmakers like sound effects and LUTs. And then the kind of final pinnacle of everything over the last few years for us is the studio. So we're really excited to get that launched and get you in there and maybe film some of these podcasts in there, bro.
Oh, definitely, 100%. We got some good ideas as well. I know. I know you've been working very hard at it at the moment.
Yeah.
I know things are taking up a lot of your time, if not all your time at the moment. It's a big space. It's a big space. I'm excited for what you do with it because I know you're going to do. And like you said, you take control of your own life. You don't leave things to chance, and you do things in no small measures. And when you do things, you do them extremely successfully as well, in my opinion.
No, I appreciate that, bro.
But how did you find yourself going into, the directing, the film space, the editorial? How did you find yourself going in that direction? Was it always an idea you had, or was it something you kind of fell into or came across?
It was, funnily enough, I think for a lot of filmmakers and video editors, it always starts as a hobby with everything. And for me, it was about 8-9 years ago, and I used to go skiing when I was a lot younger with my dad. And I started on a little GoPro 2. It was one of the first ever GoPros, and I filmed a skiing video, and just like a little edit, and then basically I edited it together, put it on Facebook, and I was like, I was towards the end of sort of school time, and I put it on Facebook, and it got 40 likes, and that was huge for me. It's huge dopamine, huge dopamine hit. But this is the thing about videography and filmmaking, is that it's an art, right? And the way that I look at it is, for any kind of video editor or filmmaker, if you're an artist and you paint a painting and you put it in a museum, unless you're stood there and waiting for feedback from someone, oh, this is a nice painting. When you're a video editor or a filmmaker, your work, you get instant feedback from it. Does that make sense? Because it goes out into the ether and people watch it and review it, and then they may comment, and it's like an instant feedback, and you get a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And I think that was it for me when I first started putting videos out, and it might be just one or two comments that say, oh, this edit's sick, bro, or whatever. And then it's a kind of a constant cycle of positive feedback, and that pushes you onto the next video, and then the next video, and the next video. So basically, a bit of background about me. I went to university. I studied business in IT actually, and then I went into my father's fintech company and did web design. But my passion was always in filmmaking from that point onwards. I always did it on the side as like a side hustle or whatever. Always freelance, and the hobby kind of turned into, someone might say, why aren't you getting paid for this? So then you have to land the clients, and then you start doing free work. I remember when I first started, it was like free work for like restaurants around Nottingham. I was just firing out emails. I've got emails literally I was looking at them the other day, where you would cold call email and say, do you want a free video? So that was years ago. And then obviously you build your portfolio up, because the most important thing is your portfolio. People want to see your work, of course, to hire you. But so I started doing free work for like little businesses and restaurants and all that kind of stuff on the side, and was working in my dad's fintech company as a web designer. And the work was all right. I enjoyed it, and I had the benefit of obviously having my father as kind of a boss, really. And then with anything, when you have a side hustle, it gets to a point like a crossroads where you have to decide to take that leap of faith.
Yes.
And it's terrifying when you do it. And your side hustle is maybe making a bit less money or just as much money as your job. Even sometimes if it's a bit less, you have to take a step back financially, take the leap of faith, and then obviously and go from there. But yeah, I was working as a freelancer, and essentially my brother and a friend had a business years ago. They called it Distinct. It was a clothing business, and they started a business together. Was very successful for the first year, and then it just dissolved and kind of went away. And those two guys, Dan and Josh, Riz knows those guys. They've obviously been involved in Vibe for a little bit. They started to get into video and photo.
Yeah.
And they were doing their stuff, and they were kind of networking and on their own successful path and meeting loads of people. And we kind of touched base again and crossed paths. And I pulled them in for a couple of jobs. They pulled us in for a couple of jobs. Yeah. And it just made sense for us to kind of join forces and launch this production company. Yeah. So that's exactly what we did. And that's all she wrote, basically. And that's to where we are now with the production company and everything.
Well, you've done some crazy heights since you started.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year, bro. Honestly, it's been a roller coaster of a year.
So why don't you mention some of because what I want to do is I want you to mention some of your clients that you're happy to mention. That you've worked with over the last 12 months. Then I want to work backwards back to what you said of the humble beginnings. The trenches, if you will, the struggle of what led you to then working with such clients, and then obviously if we're already working with these sort of clients, what the future holds, of course. But like, what sort of clients are you working with at the moment?
So we under the production company, we specialize in, I would say, 3 main sectors, and they're the high octane sectors within film. So there's the travel, that's very exciting. Then we have sort of festivals and events and working with DJs and artists. And then we have combat sports. And the thing is with like video and film, the nice thing is there's these little pockets of niches of things you can go into. There's like weddings, and then you have like corporate and all this stuff. But the most fun stuff are the high octane ones, and we went into that. But particularly over the last year, we've managed to work with, I would say, 200-300 celebrities and influencers. Some of the biggest names, Deji. Oh God, I'm trying to think now. Loads of people. Ryan Taylor. We've worked with.
There's too many.
There's way too many. Obviously, the recent one is with Floyd Mayweather because he's got his fight coming up with Deji. But we've done loads of artists and DJs. Jamie Jones, Tom Zanetti. And yeah, it's been a really exciting year. It's been sick. It's been a really good year. But we work particularly over the last year. We've worked in a lot of influencer boxing events. Yeah. So the inception of that was actually Dan and Josh got a contract for Wicked and Bad, which is a fight promotion. It's owned by Bouncer. Yeah. Bouncer Play Dirty. So they had that, and they did the first one, and then they pulled me and Isaac in for the second one. It was the one against Arms Corleone. Yeah. So we did that, and then we landed a contract with a company called Showstar. So then from there, that was kind of like the big springboard into meeting all these people. We got very close with Deji in particular. And that was actually one of my favorite projects working on that. We hired the tank from Fast and Furious 6. Yeah. Did you see that?
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, we hired the tank from Fast and Furious 6. We filmed a project called Ready for War. That was really cool. We basically went out into like a farmer's field.
Mm.
And this guy was like, he owned a load of tanks. He started buying tanks from like the 1980s, and then had a collection of like 300 tanks. We went out there. We were setting fires. We had RPGs, throwing smoke grenades. Yeah, that was a wild project. That was cool. But yeah, we've done loads of stuff. We recently had a project with. I went out to. This was after we were in Dubai. Actually,
in Dubai.
Yeah. While I was in Dubai with you, I got a text or like an Instagram DM from a guy saying they needed an extra filmmaker to go out and work for a project in Abu Dhabi.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like very secret. I had to sign an NDA before they even told me what it was. It was like very secretive. So I had to sign this NDA, and then they told me what the project was. And it was a project for the Abu Dhabi tourism and for Expedia. And basically, I can say it now, but basically Expedia have launched their own streaming service similar to Netflix. But the way it works is when you watch these episodes that we filmed, they have like a live buy basket. So when you watch all these activities, you can add these activities to your basket while watching it, if that makes sense. So like skydiving and whatever. But that was funny because after I got this text and signed this NDA, I went straight over to Abu Dhabi after we had our week. And within 12 hours, I was getting paid to get thrown out of a plane.
Yeah,
it was my first skydive. It was insane, bro. Honestly, that was a wild project. When we went and camped out in the desert.
You did all sorts.
Loads. Yeah. We did Formula 3. Went to the Abu Dhabi circuit. That was cool. We filmed the Formula 3 cars. That was really cool. Went out to the desert. We camped. Did absolutely everything. Sandboarding, skydiving. Yeah, that was a really cool week. But
that must have been a strange like pivot, because I know it was unplanned, and I remember the DM came on the last couple of days that we were there.
Yeah.
So you just did literally a week with us, which was probably less chaotic in terms of events, but chaotic in terms of managing. Yeah, people have seen the video, of course.
Yeah.
So like chaotic in terms of managing all these lads.
Yeah.
With their Lamborghinis getting seized.
We had some fun though, man. Didn't we?
I remember I pulled up to you.
Yeah.
You're running through the desert.
Yeah. We had some fun though. That was a sick week.
But then going from say an unprofessional outfit, if you will, to then I would imagine a bit more professional. More planned, more.
Yeah, we had a line producer. We had like a director, and there was like a team of like 5 or 6 of us. And it's cool. Like very long days, and very hectic. But like I guess with filmmaking or anything like with the creative, it's always like kind of hectic, the hours and everything. And
does it happen like that often, where like random projects will just pop up and you just pivot?
Yeah, I think you know me by now, bro. Like I get kind of I wouldn't say anxiety, but the contracts do come in every now and quite infrequently. So I can't really plan stuff for long into the future.
Yeah.
But the contracts come in, and obviously these job offers, so I can't really plan stuff longer than a month in advance.
Yeah.
It's hard, bro. But I guess that's just how it is. That's how the industry is. You know?
Definitely, yeah.
Unless there's like a huge project going on, like a short film or something that's planned for next year. And but yeah, you kind of have to be extremely flexible with your hours, 100%.
How do you, with the like anxiety thing, for example, because I can understand exactly what you mean in terms of like managing multiple projects at once, all with their own deadlines, or with their own different, leaders, if you will, or people who have put these contracts to you or these projects to you. So therefore, you're managing all these different people and their expectations and what they need, and then doing the sort of a snag list, if you will, for each video or project. But then also trying to maintain and get them all out there. And we're talking again from people like us who are a bit more, sort of smaller fish in a whole different industry, but then to these much bigger, influencers and celebrities even. And then you're managing all this at once. And there's only a small team of you, there's only 4 of you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like, how do you manage that? Like, is it a bit more just like kind of wild, wild west? Is it like systems you have in place? Do you guys like micromanage and kind of split certain tasks between you?
Yeah, I think we have a good system where we split split stuff between us 100%. But it's just long hours. It's just very, very, very long hours and kind of managing everything. Film space itself is a little bit more hands-off because it's a digital asset store. It's not like something that is physical, like selling clothes. So we sell these assets to filmmakers and they're digitally downloadable. So that's a little bit more hands-off. So that's all right. But yeah, it's hectic. The whole industry, the industry as a whole, and you know what we've got going on is crazy, man. But we're here. You know, we managed to get through it. Yeah, 100%.
You do it though. You do it, and I know there's a lot of sleepless nights. I remember when we did our recent meetup, we did London, and then we did Nottingham, and then we did Amsterdam. And I remember I think there was two or three nights in between where you didn't sleep. Yeah. I know 2 of those nights were because I was snoring. Oh man.
Yeah, but that was class though. That was a class weekend as well. We've had some good times, man.
We really have. Yeah, we really have. And,
I think we've skipped past the how we actually met though.
We're gonna come back to that.
Yeah, we can.
So what we're gonna do is, now that sort of people have a good idea of the sort of level of clients that you're working with and the sort of projects you're involved with, that's what you're doing now.
Yeah,
right. That's the accumulation of, like you say, like a 9-year journey of getting into the industry. But if we take us back now to what it was like in that beginning stages, as you already mentioned about, having to offer free projects, free services to really build your portfolio, get your name out there. What was it like back then when you were having to do that work, having to put yourself out there, having to do work for free with no compensation in the trust that hopefully will lead you somewhere to, eventually where you are now?
I think the first thing that comes into it, 100%, is just the passion. 100%, because if I didn't have the passion for it, like anything, I probably wouldn't have pursued it in the same way that I have now, 1,000,000%. So the first thing was obviously having the passion and actually enjoying the creative process. So I think the penny drop for me, and I've mentioned this before, was I was editing a video one night and I was so deep into it that the only kind of realization of time was that the birds were singing that morning. And that's actually what made me realize I was kind of in my editing cave. And then I was editing this video and the birds were singing and it was sunrise and I'd done it all night. And it wasn't even a paid project, I was just editing. But that for me was like a moment of, okay, I really love doing this. Yeah. So with the free work side of things, the sad thing is about the creative industry is that there's the saying that your network is your net worth, right?
Yeah.
That is the kind of the epitome of what the creative industry is. Definitely. With music and everything, when people in music, when they say they have a lucky break, it's usually because they had a connection.
Yeah.
So the most important thing I would say is to be willing to do the free work. You just have to suck it up, because in the creative industry, there's kind of 2 sides. There's team free work and there's team no free work. And the no free work guys have a pride thing of I'm worth this, blah, 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 and aren't willing to do it. To this day, I will still do free work. We still do free work if it means that we have a big connection made.
Yeah.
If you were to ask someone in the music industry, would you take $100,000 up front, or would you take 30 minutes with Drake or a Sony Music Group for a meeting? I can guarantee you most people will probably take the $100,000, because that 30-minute meeting, nothing may transpire in the end. But the important thing is in this industry is the connections, 1,000,000%. So the free work at the start was kind of the foot in the door. I remember sending out lots of emails. I remember 2-3 years ago, I actually made a promise to myself that I wanted to get into the sort of festival and events industry.
Yeah.
2 years ago. It was not last summer, the summer before. And I basically, I went on savage mode, sending out all these emails, trying to land the work. But essentially, I didn't really have much of a portfolio in the kind of festival events and artists and all that. And I remember there was a gig or like a festival called Eastern Electrics. It was in London, and it's just like this festival. And I basically cold emailed these guys, and they got back to me and said, no, we have a team or whatever. We've got it covered. We've got 4 guys or whatever. We're not interested. I had none of it, bro. Honestly, I was on savage mode. I went and found the CEO's phone number on LinkedIn of Eastern Electrics. So the team had said, no, we've got it covered. We've got the filmmakers, blah, blah, blah. So I rang this guy, literally, I think it was like the day before, 2 days out from the festival. And I rang him. And when he picked up, he was sat in a pub having a pint of beer. And I rang him and said, "Hey man, listen, I want to shoot this festival. I want to come down. I want to come film. I'll do it for free or whatever." He said, "Listen, we've got it covered. We've got a content team. Blah blah blah. I'm not interested." So then literally the night before, it was like 9-10 p.m. And I'd actually premeditated that I was going, so I had all my gear laid out, even though I hadn't been told that like I was going or whatever. I got a phone call at like 10 p.m. that night, and the guy had obviously done a U-turn and had kind of this moment where he was like, "I'll just give him a chance," or whatever. And he rang me at like 10 p.m. He was like, "Do you want to film tomorrow?" I was like, "Yes, 100%. Yeah, let's go." So I went down and I actually ended up shooting the festival. There were guys there, obviously, who were paid. It kind of transpired they knew that I was doing it for free. So there's kind of like this like tiered thing where like you're lesser or whatever.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that when we actually finished, I actually showed up the paid guys. So my work actually ended up being better. There was one guy there that I met, his name's Gerbs. He was actually, his work's amazing. So not him, but he actually worked for Defected, which is one of the largest house labels in the world. And through doing that free work, he put me on to Defected, and then ended up shooting for some of the world's biggest house labels. So Defected, Above and Beyond, some absolutely huge artists like Sam Divine, Hannah Wants, and
I know Hannah Wants.
Yeah,
I don't even know house music.
yeah.
That's big stuff.
So yeah, that was good. Ended up doing a lot of stuff for Defected. That was really cool. But again, it's one of these things where if you really want something, you just got to chase it savagely and just go after it. And the free work is where all the opportunities lie. 100%.
Well, that's the thing. So a lot of people will hear that story that you just told, and there's so many key lessons in there that people could take away.
Yeah.
So like putting yourself out there, number one, be willing to do the free work. And as you say, a lot of people automatically separate themselves because they have too much pride. They're not willing to do such a thing, when in reality, if you want to put yourself ahead, and as you say, in an industry where the network is worth more. Perfect example. You did it for free, and then that put you onto 10 different paid work projects. You know what I mean? With even bigger networks, which no doubt probably led to 10 more and 10 more. It's just that sort of momentum. But if you never took the action in the first place, or be willing to do something for free, to put yourself out there and to take the action, like you said as well, like a lot of people won't be willing to put in the time and effort to go research the CEO's number or some form of contact, and then actually take the action or the balls to call them, and then to request, or essentially say, "I want to do this." And then a very interesting one you mentioned was that even though you had been told no, you had prepared your mindset and prepared your actual equipment regardless. And no doubt, I would imagine, even if you didn't get that phone call, you might have actually gone down and tried to turn up.
Probably, to be fair, yeah.
And you probably would have got in.
Yeah.
But it just shows determination, And, an element of it you could even class as like your, law of attraction, if you will, or your, think and grow rich, think and, and sort of visualize in a way. Who knows if you hadn't have done that, or had that preparation or mindset, or not taking no for an answer, would that guy have called? Maybe it was that conviction, that 100% focus and basically taking no for an answer. He could maybe tell in the tone in your voice that then made him sort of question and call you again. You never know.
Yeah.
But it was necessary for you to be able to then push yourself, which I would imagine if you didn't decide to take those actions, you might not be where you are now.
Yeah, 100%, bro.
It's incredible to see. And what was the mindset like? Because I'm sure in the very beginning, but let's not forget, we probably skipped over one step, which was the learning phase, Because even though you're not a trader, for example, I truly believe, and I'm pretty sure it's true, is that to be successful in anything, it requires almost the same traits, the same sort of mindset, right? And everyone pretty much goes through a very similar journey in terms of, so for yourself, learning the skill of editing. Because then, like I could sit here and say I am an editor because I did a video, because, I shot a video on my camera and then I put a little bit of audio on there, right? But there's a whole different level, and I can't really claim that label at all, but there's levels to the game, of course, right? Just like with trading, there's levels to the person who just got in for the last 2 weeks and knows how to put a line on a chart in comparison to someone who's been doing it 6 years and is consistently profitable, right? Just like with yourself, there's people who may have been editing for the last 4 years, but in terms of skill set with yourself, and then in compared to them, even though the years might be still and the time might be there, your level of quality and level of understanding and maybe knowledge as well is up here in compared to someone who might be doing it at the same time. but they're not taking it as seriously. They're not trying to level up. They're just keeping the basic skills, just taking some, if you will, like basic projects, not trying to do more, not trying to be bigger, better. So what was that mindset like when you were learning? Because I'm sure there was a big phase where you might have been maybe not shit, but like, not very good. And you had to actively get resources. Was there any courses, or was it literally just trial and error?
I think it's falling in love with the process of learning. So I never went to film school. Never done any kind of accredited courses or anything on filmmaking or the creative industry. Just the University of YouTube, I guess, and actually being out like in the field and learning in the field. But again, it's like, I'll come back to the passion thing. It's like, unless you genuinely love sitting there editing, or you love being out like with a camera and filming, and falling in love with the learning process and wanting to, even to this day, I still feel like in my knowledge spectrum that there are gaps because because I didn't go to film school. I never actually learned. I've never really been around like big sets or anything. So I was looking at even doing short courses at London Film School to kind of fill those gaps and everything, because it has felt like a little bit of a fast track, really. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just falling in love with learning. That's all. Sitting down, learning how to color grade a certain way, or shortcuts or whatever. It's with any industry, even with trading, you have to fall in love with learning how to trade or learning how to edit, or do you know what I mean?
100%. And it's not like just the surface level, because even though you didn't go to these courses or accredited courses or anything, you could simply just stick to, what someone could do on iMovie, for example. Yeah. And just put some audio clips, some video clips, and maybe some text. But as you just mentioned, like color grading, I would completely. Yeah. As soon as you mention it, I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. But reality being that you chose to, because of the passion, probably, right? But because you enjoy it, and because you know that it's only going to help your skill set, it's only going to set you apart from just the average editor. The average, you're going to put yourself and your knowledge a scale above, but by going into the details, not just the surface level, And no doubt was there periods of like, sort of not failures, but hardship, hardship in terms of maybe not quite understanding something, maybe trying something out, it didn't really go your way, maybe getting some negative feedback. Because I know you mentioned about the positive feedback earlier and sort of the dopamine. Did you ever get any sort of projects along the way where you got sort of some negative feedback, some things that you were a bit shocked or thrown off by that you then had to overcome?
There have been projects or moments where you've kind of have fucked up on, and we have as a team. It may be something because in film especially, there's so many different things before you hit the record button. Yeah, people think you just like run around with a camera and you just press record. There's audio, there's so many different elements to it, right? But there have been times where I've messed up, and you kind of, that's just a learning. It's like anything. It's like a learning. You have to lose to learn
how to win.
Yeah, exactly, man. There's kind of all these, different hurdles that you go over. It's just a constant learning process. You fail, you learn from it. Like with anything, man.
That's it. And those moments are hard. Their moments they'll feel like failure. You'll maybe question, am I actually good at this? Or, am I, was it something I did or something like that? And, especially when it's essentially your creation, if you will, and that's what I really respect about, the industry that you're in and everything that you do, because obviously we've done some projects like with the meetups and stuff like that. And we have our inputs and stuff, but like to see us, being there, holding these events, etc., but then what you then create out of it, it's really an amazing thing to see. And it's like such a I don't know, like a process, and like you said, there's so many elements into it that we won't see, and the average person won't know about, right? With, like you said, with lighting, audio, everything. And then obviously when it comes to the editing as well, that's a whole different ball game that people don't realize. But it's such an amazing thing. I can imagine it's so rewarding, as you said, about like the dopamine hits and the feedback. And I can imagine, is that something that kind of never goes away? In a sense, like, this, no matter how big or small the project, it's enjoying the creation process from concept, storyboards, stuff like that, to to the actual finished project that you then put out into, and you get all this feedback and you get all these views and people's opinions?
I think 100%. I mean, by now as a production company, we've put out videos and we've now done tens of millions of views across certain channels and things that we've put out, which is kind of it's unbelievable really to know that your work has been seen by that many people. But even just editing like a video myself, if I was to put it out, and it got 200 views, but it's not actually, I'm not trying to get as many views as possible. I just love the creative process. Genuinely, when I'm kind of like in an edit and something falls into place and it's an edit I'm really enjoying, I actually get really fidgety because like, I'm getting excited because it's like starting to fall into place and everything. So yeah, I think that you still get the same feeling from when you do a smaller video, but you actually really enjoyed and loved the creative process and put that out. And, you know, even if I put the film out and literally no one watched it, I never kind of released it or whatever, but I actually enjoyed watching it myself. Yeah. That's, you know, I enjoy it just as much than if I was to put a video out and millions were to see it. Yeah. Obviously, it's nicer because you kind of get the feedback. And our first kind of major feeling of that was early last year when we were obviously working with Deji. We're putting we put, I think it was the Ready for War project again. We actually put that out and we filmed that video and that did a couple million views. But that was the first time that I've worked on something where it had massive kind of feedback and reach. And would
that be one of the first projects you guys like on that scale where you did everything? In terms of storyboarding,
100%.
Getting the resources, acquiring the tank and everything, and
it was Dan and Josh's idea. They came up with the concept of the tank because obviously his nickname is the Tank. So then it was cool because the night before we had like a pin board and we were storyboarding and we basically printed off like these confidential like documents, like secret documents and everything. And then we built the set. We went into an armory, and that was so cool because we literally, you know, we'd come up with the idea, we storyboarded it, made the concept, and we went in and basically filmed and edited, and you know, from start to finish, it was all us.
And it was quite quick as well.
It was like over. There was obviously 1 day filming, and then 1 or 2 days, I think, editing. So it was quite quick, but. Yeah, when we released that project, that got like 7,000 or 8,000 comments. And I read every single comment on that video, because it was the first time I got like a big something, and literally I think it took me like 2 days, but I read every single comment on that video because it was just like even though it wasn't on like my channel or our channel, it was our work. Do you know what I mean? So and people enjoyed it and absolutely loved it. So
I've seen the detail that you guys go into. You know, in Dubai, for example, it was you and it was Dan, right? And you know, to hear you guys talking about, you know, when we were shooting the cars, you know, that was a great example. You know, trying to get different angles, different shots, trying to plan or get some form of sequences together, and you know, willing to be the boot open and just hanging out the back of a car.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
You know, and again, it's not about just having a camera and pressing record, as you said, you know? So I can imagine just, you know, being able to create something and have the opportunity to put it on a bigger platform to then see that feedback, you know, and knowing that, you know, from start to finish, you guys created the idea, the storyboard, you know, then sourced all the equipment and the sets and, then edited it all together, you know, choosing the different shots, you know, everything. Like there's so much detail that goes into it that people don't understand. Right, even to the degree I don't understand, even though I get to kind of observe you from time to time. But even then, like I can only imagine the feedback. It's similar to me, like when we do these podcasts, you know, and or when we've done the you know, keeping up with the Vipers, you know, all these things that we've done. It's a similar feeling that I get, and even I'm not the one editing or anything. I'm not the one filming. I'm just like, let's call it this, or let's try this, the speed dating idea, for example, you know? And I still get that same feeling where it's like, you know, I want to see what sort of feedback we get from this. So I can only imagine on that scale and being the person who's actually putting it all together.
Well, the thing is, if you strip my job down as a whole and actually look at it, essentially, as a filmmaker, or my job is to film the highlights of life, right? So there's a reason why we don't film funerals. Yeah. So people want to have the best moments in their life filmed, like weddings, and it's all about, capturing those best moments. So that is what my job is. So fortunately with my job, I am always around those best moments.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate in my job I've done some incredible things over the last few years. And, you're there for those moments that people want capturing. And obviously I put it together in a way that it's kind of a memory log of everything, but in a cool way. And you can look back on it. And that's the beautiful thing, because it's like, it's timeless now. It's in the ether, and you can watch that in 30, 40 years time.
Exactly.
And think about, those crazy times, man. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, I've always sort of had a similar mindset in terms of you're putting content out. It's essentially the new documentation. It's the new stone, if you will. So if we look 1,000 years back, you can just read stories of people.
Or etchings on cave walls.
But the new version is the ether, the cloud, the platforms, right?
Yeah.
The only way that goes away is if a massive EMP comes along or some sort of comet comes and takes us all out, right? Yeah. And that's what I love about it as well. And I'm sure it'll be the same for you. It's kind of like your legacy, you know? So like your grandkids or great grandkids, will be able to say, oh, look what he made, look what he put together. Look at the impact he had as well. Look at the network. Look at the projects. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. And does that ever come to mind for you in terms of like your legacy, like the sort of lasting impact that you get to have, and then the sort of things that you get to leave behind as well?
I think there's a lot of things that I want to kind of achieve in my life. A couple years ago, obviously something major happened in my life. My mum passed away from cancer, and particularly the last 2 years, everything I kind of feel like that I've been motivated to do is because of her. And I feel like that's been like it was a major turning point in my life, and it's like really pushed me to kind of, I wanted to live twice a life, like double the life, so I can make up for hers, that what she missed. So I want to leave something behind, for my kids, and I do want to leave my mark.
Legacy.
I'm not a religious man, so this is my life, and I want to leave my mark here for when I'm gone.
That's
100%.
Talking about the situation, what happened with your mom, and going through that. But I know the recent years, it's a very, it's probably one of the hardest things that anyone can go through is obviously having cancer, and it's extremely difficult even for those who, the close family members and friends who are around as well, because it's a very difficult one. Like Maria, my wife, who had the very similar situation around a similar time as well with her uncle. But how did you manage to sort of, mindset wise, persevere through that? And was it something that you kind of just understood and sort of like faced, or is there anything in particular that you maybe have learned or maybe even suffered with to go through that?
So about 3 years ago, it was actually around I would say 3 years ago, a bit longer than that, I had a kind of a series of unfortunate events that happened in my life, one after the other, that all came in quick succession. So I actually grew up with my mum and my grandparents, and my brother. We all lived in the same house. And my grandparents I was extremely close to my grandparents. They were like my second parents, essentially. My grandfather passed away from ill health. My grandma passed away. She passed away in extreme circumstances. Then my aunt, who I'm close to, she got diagnosed with cancer herself. Then my mum got diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away. I don't see my dad. He's obviously on the other side of the planet. Then, obviously, COVID hit, and I literally lost like 90% of my work. So financially, I was screwed. My father hadn't paid me in about 6 to 7 months as well, because I was kind of working on the side with that. So financially, I was absolutely screwed. So there was this quick succession of events. And after my mum had died, there were complications with the house, with the inheritance. It meant that I almost lost my childhood home. So because it was so thick and so fast, I had to kind of like grow thick skin extremely quickly. So it was, it was a very, very, very difficult period. And by the time, I've never actually told anyone this, I think only my girlfriend knows this, but I didn't actually cry at my own mum's funeral. And I feel kind of guilty about it to this day. But because I was like so hurt over the past few years, I'd kind of like grown thick skin.
Gone numb.
If I got 100%, bro. I'd gone completely numb. So, that was kind of a difficult period. And then once my mum had died, I saw it as it can't get any worse now.
Yeah.
So I've hit rock bottom. My viewpoint of it is it can only get better now. There is nothing that can be worse now, because that 2-3 year period of those events had come in such quick succession that it kind of just completely destroyed my life and just destroyed everything, family, home, work, everything was destroyed. So for me, it was one of these kind of wake up moments when mum were gone, because the issue is, for anyone that's obviously watching this, and when you have a family member or someone that you love that has cancer, is that before they die, you've already accepted that they're going to die. And it's kind of an anxiety thing of, especially when it's terminal. So for me, when my mum died, it was kind of a release, if that makes sense. I was like shackled for like 2-3 years while she was suffering with cancer. I couldn't go and live a normal life, really, and do anything.
You were caring for her.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the last 6 months, she was completely bedbound, and it was a blessing. It's funny. It was actually a blessing that COVID hit, because if COVID hadn't hit, I probably would have continued with work and not spent that time with my mum. But because COVID had hit and everyone was staying at home, it was kind of a thing of beauty, because I got to spend that time with my mum, at home and looking after her. And there wasn't much work going around either. So, it was a blessing, really. And that last 6 months particularly, I was by her side all the time. She was bedbound at home. But when someone's dying of cancer, it's one of these things that you kind of pre-grief. So I'd already cried, I'd already accepted that she was gone before she was gone, and that's terrible to say. So actually on a funeral day, it was one of these things where it was like, I'm free now. Does that make sense?
Well, she's free as well.
She's free. 100%. She had, she had that type of cancer. It was an extremely painful. That was the worst part. It was an extremely painful cancer, and watching her writhe in pain, that was the worst part for me, because I couldn't do anything. I was powerless. So yeah, that was very difficult. But for me, once she passed away, it was kind of, I was like a caged, in a really fucked up way. I was like a caged animal for 2-3 years, not being able to pursue my life in the way that I wanted to, because I was always looking over my shoulder. There was like moments of really ill health, and then she got a little bit better, and then you get excited, and maybe she goes into remission.
That fear comes along. Unknown, any day, any moment, especially as you mentioned with like the succession of all these different things as well. So you're probably thinking, what's next? What's next? But like I said, I think I met you. We met, I think, shortly after.
It was.
Circumstances. It
was.
And I would never have known. Honestly, I don't think I knew until much later. And the only reason I actually knew was because I think at the time you had done something for charity. Was it a school?
Yeah, it was for, so when my mum died, she used to work in a special needs school. It was called Ashley's, in a place called Cottgrave in Nottingham. She worked there for almost a decade, and it's a special needs school, all different kinds of sort of disabilities, these children. And she worked there for quite a while, and then obviously she died. But I wanted to, again, we come to the legacy thing. I wanted to make a big impact about her life, or kind of in memory of her. So we started a GoFundMe page, and the story actually went viral, and it actually ended up going onto BBC News. I was in the Nottingham Post, me and my brother, and we raised, I think it was like £8,500 in the end for the special needs kids. And that was kind of my nod to my mum to say, I've done this for you, Mum.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So that was, that was like my legacy thing for her. But when she did pass away, I was so numb at that point from kind of everything that had happened that my way of dealing with it was going straight into work.
Yeah.
And I remember 3 or 4 days after she died, I just went straight back into work, and I was kind of like, editing or whatever, or doing whatever, filming, or anything, emails, and that was my way of dealing with it. And I don't think to this day that I know for a fact that I haven't actually. I've never truly grieved at all.
Definitely.
But that was my way of keeping busy.
Yeah.
That was right or wrong, because a lot of people may look at that and think that's completely wrong. And I do feel wrong for it. But right or wrong, that was like my way of dealing with it, dealing with the grief.
I think in one essence, as you mentioned, you kind of probably had pre-grieved, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. We'd always written, it was...
And there is no right or wrong, really. At the end of the day, with these things, this is why it's so hard. When you speak to people, I get people a lot where they message me about different circumstances, whether it's loss and grief, or whether it's financial problems. But there's no right or wrong answer to be able to give people or advise people on, because it's all about that individual. It might be wrong in one sense in terms of you haven't grieved, so therefore it might come back later. But in another sense, is you've taken potentially that negative experience and feeling and been able to transmute it into the level of savagery and work and intent and focus that has led you to do what you've done now, which is a testament then to your mum as well in terms of legacy, because obviously she raised you, she instilled so much into you, and now you're still here, which is a living part of your mum, for example, and doing such incredible things. And yet to do even more incredible things, because it's not even been that long. And you look at the scale that you've done, and maybe a part of that negative was you were able to then put that into a positive because of going straight into work, having that level of focus. And it's an incredible thing. Like I said, meeting you shortly after, I would never have guessed, because your mindset and your level of focus was there. Because it was COVID when we met. I remember we parked up in a car park.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that actually. Let's switch it up. Let's talk about that. So how did we meet? It was
Cal and you had mutual friends.
That was it. So I've known Cal for years. I'd say I don't know, 5-10 years through mutual friends. I think we've even played on a football pitch together.
More than that, knowing.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And so we had mutual friends, and then Cal had initially reached out to me for a little bit of video work. I think he'd messaged me on a story or whatever, and said that I'm starting a Forex company with this guy. His name's Riz. And he was like, can you do some video work? And I'm not going to lie, bro, and we joke about this all the time.
I know.
When he said, I'm starting a Forex company, I was like, oh, okay. you know what it comes with, doesn't it? 100%. It just, it's tainted, isn't it? The whole industry. But because I have had a little bit of experience in trading. It was actually Bitcoin when Trading 212 used to do. You remember when they used to do Bitcoin on
the adverts?
And no, you used to be able to trade Bitcoin on Trading 212. Leveraged. I made 800 quid one day. I was absolutely gassed, bro. But yeah, so obviously me and Cal messaged, and then I ended up meeting you in a Costa car park, didn't I?
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest interview ever, because you were sat in the front seat and I was sat in the back seat, so you were interviewing me with the back of your head, and it was like one of them like a drama films where all I could see was your eyes, like in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
I was looking at you in the rearview mirror, and you're looking at me like this, like from the back of your head. But yeah, no, that was interesting. First impression. They left my keys. Yeah, but no, honestly, bro, from big respect to you guys. Like, you are one of the longest, if not the longest standing client that I've had, and I absolutely love working with you guys, and we've had such a ride, man. It's been so enjoyable. Do you know what I mean?
No, but we appreciate you, because I've said it to you a lot recently, where I'm like, I'm so surprised you still work with us, because here you are, like, doing projects with Mayweather and Deji and KSI and so many different names, big names. And yet here we are. Still
no, it's all love, man. Honestly, there's the loyalty there, and from the second I met you guys, well, actually from that initial meeting when we met in that car park, I knew that something was there was the kind of the stigma of this is a Forex company.
Yeah.
But I knew straight away that there was something different about you guys.
We appreciate it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. But you've helped us, though. You've helped us massively, especially over recent months. Like, Viper is a name that is more recognized. Now, it's not like we're trying to be known worldwide, globally, or anything like that. We just do what we do.
Yeah.
And wherever the cards fall, if you will, wherever it may be, they fall. But yeah, like Viper as a brand is much more recognized now. And that's thanks to your hard work. Like there's only so much, like we could have all the content and ideas, but if we don't have someone who can create those visions into not just a reality, but at such a high level. Like I've said for a while now that we have the level of content of people like Deji and all these guys, but yet with no audience and skill set ourselves in terms of video editing.
Yeah.
And that's thanks to you.
No, I appreciate that, man. No,
and it's interesting that you're going to edit this podcast.
I know. So I have all the power.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cut
man.
this out. It must feel weird though, then, to sit there and listen to yourself.
Yeah. Actually, this is my first time. Actually, well, I did a podcast, but it was like over a Zoom call with some guys from uni. They started their own podcast, but that was like a weird one. But this is my first ever podcast, man. So yeah, I really appreciate you having me here.
Hopefully, first of many, man. I can imagine. Actually, in say 10 years time when you're on all these big podcasts because you worked with all these big people and people want to know like your insider secrets and all that. There's so much. The funny thing is people won't realize there's so much that Josh knows that I don't know about because he won't tell me because that's how much these industry, not secrets, but like things need to be close to the chest because obviously otherwise things get out there.
Yeah.
But there's so much I could ruin his day by keep poking him. Tell us about this.
Yeah. I've got way too many stories, man. But yeah, I have to keep client confidentiality.
100%.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Hopefully, we don't really have any secrets. I need to make some secrets so that he can keep them to himself. But Josh, I think we've got to wrap up there for this session. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And as you said, you got so many more stories to come, no doubt, and so many stories still left untold, which no doubt we'll have to do this again. Hopefully, the next one we do, we can be in your studio.
100%. We'll reverse the roles and you come on my podcast, so maybe.
Why not?
And then we'll film your podcast there, man. Yeah, 100%. But we're going to have a whole podcast set up and everything. And maybe for you guys watching, there'll be a different location. It'll be maybe about our studio. But
definitely.
Yeah, we'll see. Exciting,
well, what I'll
man.
do is obviously normally I put like social links, but I don't know, wherever you want. But we'll put the Film Space link.
Yeah, sure, man. Bio, yeah, we can do that.
You never know, there might be some other. I was saying that there's a lot of people now going to, those DMs I get, like, let me be your editor. They're going to see my editor now.
Yeah.
Now they're not going to mess with me again.
Yeah.
But Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No, it's been a pleasure, bro.
Thank you for sharing all the things that you did as well. Because again, some things are hard to talk about. Some things we're not used to, especially sharing, not even sharing with friends, for example, but and let alone sharing with random people across the world. But I think it's just so powerful, and especially with the circumstance you went through, it's something that a lot of people unfortunately go through, and they don't really have a lot of people to sort of relate with.
Yeah.
And so I thank you a lot for sharing that.
No, I appreciate it, brother, honestly. It's been a pleasure, man.
And we'll see you again soon, I guess.